Good morning, everyone. Andean is a great template for growing through acquisition, and so great success for last year for Andean and this year going forward, and we are the story of 2025 in gold and great acquisition for the moment. Hopefully this presentation, again, whets your appetite for this story. There's an extensive release on our website already if you wanted more information. So a bit about Minerals 260. We were spun out of Liontown about 3 years ago. Liontown being a Tim Goyder chaired company. Tim Goyder is also the chair of Minerals 260. So we have Liontown DNA running through our veins, and that is a great advantage given they've just constructed $1 billion mine in Western Australia, and that's where our project is also located. So as Nicholas said, it was a busy Christmas, so I do owe my family a Christmas. $166 million deal to buy 2.3 million ounces. That's a $74 an ounce acquisition cost, so incredible value for an asset of this scale and location and development phase. As Headley said, we do believe there's re-rating opportunity to come through the development phases of the development companies for gold plays, and so that's why we were incredibly pleased to be able to get this deal done before that re-rating event occurs. It's a historical mine, so last mined in 1998 by Resolute, and for the last 25 years has gone through several ownership changes, and for the last 12 years has sat in Zijin Mining's portfolio. So Zijin being a $90 billion Chinese company, this became non-core to them, and so we entered negotiation with them to extract it out of their portfolio. With that history comes a fantastic amount of intellectual property information and data, particularly around met. So this is a very well understood from a metallurgical perspective. The rocks or the ore is amphibolite rock, and so it's the most common Eastern Goldfields rock. So from a processing perspective, very common, and we're very comfortable from that with a metallurgical perspective. It's been amazingly drilled, so the drilling database is the largest I've ever seen. 12,000 drill holes, 530,000 metres. The resource interpretation is backed up by drilling data. It is fantastic to be able to see the resource backed up by data, and you'll see that cross-section coming up later on in my presentation where it proves where that resource hangs together incredibly well, supported by a lot of drilling. And then more importantly, from a de-risking perspective, which is more and more important both globally and in Australia these days, this sits on a granted mining lease, and we've also got a native title agreement with the traditional owners. So from a permitting perspective, this is in a great position. And then we get to the location. So this is the centre of the gold universe in Australia. So we're 70 kilometres west of Kalgoorlie, 30 kilometres west of Coolgardie. It's in the neighbourhood where Evolution just finished constructing their Mungari mine 9 months ahead of schedule. So this is the part of the world, and particularly in Australia, where things get permitted, things get built. So like we keep saying, we're very pleased to be able to have it. From a timing perspective, we were a $30 million market cap just prior to the acquisition. So $30 million companies aren't meant to buy $166 million mines or projects. And so from a re-compliance perspective, we will put out a full prospectus later on this month. It's mostly there already. It's sitting in my inbox ready to review and get it to the ASX for their approval. There will be a shareholder meeting in March, a capital raising event in March, and there'll be trading again in early April. So you've got time to understand this, plenty of time to call up and ask questions, learn more about the opportunity. Like I said, we've got an A-class team. So one of the features of a Tim Goyder company is the strength of the team. You don't accidentally build several billion-dollar companies over a 40-year career like Tim has done. So Tim is an incredible chairman. He knows the recipe for success begins with the right people. So Tim leads this company, and he's also the major shareholder. I joined about 2 years ago. I was at Oz Minerals for 4 years and led them through that growth phase, culminating with that $9 billion transaction with BHP about 2 years ago. Emma Scottney is also on the board of De Grey and Santana Minerals. Again, two fantastic companies that have gone through rapid growth phases, and De Grey transacting with Northern Star at the moment. David Richards, who's famous in his own right, he's been up on this stage many times. Most geologists don't discover economic deposits in their lifetime or their careers. He's discovered 3. So he discovered Kathleen Valley that unlocked the value for Liontown shareholders. And then we've got Stacey and Jamie, who just joined us recently, who are fantastic finance and governance. So the history is important for this project. So discovered in the 80s by Western Mining, went through an operational period in the mid to late 90s, like I said, at $500 an ounce. If only you knew what gold was going to be now back then, and you would have just bought everything possible. So it went into care and maintenance in late 1998. Few owners through that next 15-year period, and really what got everyone interested about Bullabulling was in 2012 when a feasibility study was released by Bullabulling Gold. That was the carrot to really get Zygen's attention and why they were required in that period. And then this project just went into that $90 billion company that I talked about, and $90 billion companies have lots of opportunities to do lots of things. This is a company that operates in Africa and China, and so they're putting their capital elsewhere. So the amazing opportunity for us is to reinvent this project and get it back into production at a gold price that we're currently looking at. It's a fantastic opportunity for us to put out a study as quickly as possible and to build this thing and get it back into production as quickly as possible. So here you see the aerial view of the mineralisation. So that mineralisation trend is 8.5 kilometres long, largely homogeneous, structurally controlled, amphibolite rock. So it's a very typical goldfields project. In the most positive sense, it's boringly simple. There's nothing funky about metallurgy, there's no byproducts. So this is very typical of what you see in the Eastern Goldfields in WA. Sits on a granted mining lease, and the huge opportunity for us is the growth of the deposit. When this was drilled out, the majority of these 12,000 holes were drilled in the late 90s and early 2000s, and you see the drilling stop at 50 to 100 metres. So this whole resource is open at depth and along strike. Nobody has drilled this properly since the early 2000s. And so there's a huge exploration upside to this, in addition to the existing 2.3 million ounces we've already got sitting in these contained pits that are already modelled. So our opportunity will be to drill from the tip of that Bacchus area, from Kraken, and to the historical resource Gibraltar. There's no numbers in the market on that because that's a non-JORC compliant resource, but again, another exploration target for us to look to bring into that resource that we're looking to improve. The grade is important here. So the resource grade on 2.3 million ounces today stands at 1.2 grams. But as you can see, from Bacchus to Kraken, that grade improves from nearly 1.3 to 1.7. So you will see us look to add ounces and also add higher grade ounces to this resource. So we're pretty pleased to be able to extract this out of the company that we have, but then also to pick it up with the exploration opportunity in addition to what we've already got with that 2.3 million ounces. So as you'll note, 2.3 million ounces is not small. So from an acquisition perspective, this is one of the larger acquisitions from a development project in the last decade. So this is a rare acquisition, and then extracting it out of a company like Zygen is even rarer. From an infrastructure perspective, given the location, like I said, 70 kilometres west of Kalgoorlie, 30 west of Coolgardie, highway to the project gate, gas, power, water, all running through the project. So from an infrastructure perspective, it is in a fantastic position. Here we see that same resource now tilted. You can see that resource, that mineralisation. It dips 40 degrees to the west, largely homogeneous. The majority of our indicated resources, of which we've got 1.4 million ounces, are in the northern part of the resource where you see Dixon's and Phoenix labels. And you can see that because that's very densely drilled. So in some areas it's 20 by 20. So arguably, potentially, from an upgrade to reserve perspective, we've got enough drilling. We'll do a bit of work to work through what we need to do on upgrading that. But like I said, the exploration opportunity is really from the southern tip of the Bacchus area all the way through to Kraken, and then that historical resource, which is called Gibraltar. So we've defined at this stage an 80,000 metre drilling program. The planning for that has already started. The permits for that will go in as quickly as possible. The tender for that drilling contract will go out soon. So we're already underway and planning for that drilling. So when the transaction completes in late March, early April, we're ready to go. Our drilling will have three strategies to it: upgrade the resource, drill at depth, and drill along strike. So we really do believe there's a lot more ounces to be found in this resource. So this is a very typical cross section cutting through right through the middle of that main pit. So you see the inset image there, it's right through the middle of this Phoenix pit. Currently stands at 3.5 kilometres long, 700 metres wide. And you can see there, like I said in the introduction, the depth of the pit, and that's that dotted line, is only constrained by the depth of the drilling. So the resource is completely open at depth, and many of these drill holes are very shallow. So there's a huge upside opportunity for us. You will see drill plans come out, and you'll see us obviously drilling at depth. So from a timing perspective, February is where all of the information about this project becomes available to you. A prospectus will be out by the end of the month. There'll be a shareholder meeting in March, capital raising in March, and then away we go out of the gates in early April. Studies will commence, drilling will commence, and there'll be a resource update by the end of the year. And we look forward to really updating the market regularly through all these phases, and there'll be a longer term plan released later on this year too. So just to recap the opportunity in front of you, this is by any definition transformational. So this is an acquisitions that don't come along often. It's not only a great gold project, you're obviously in the gold environment like Grady and Headley talked about, but extracting these types of projects out of big companies don't happen often, and particularly of this scale. Exploration upside, great value from where we're starting from. So $74 an ounce, if you look at what many other development companies are trading at today, it's much higher than that. From a risk perspective, previously operational, sits in granted mining leases, infrastructure to the project gate, great location, it's everything that you want when you're developing a project. We agree with the Andean sentiment around teams count. It's not an accident that great people build great companies. We've got great people already. You will see more people join the team, particularly around the engineering and technical side. And then we look forward to being here regularly and updating you with our story. Thanks very much.